Arizona Wildlife Fuse, brought to you by the sale of hunting and fishing licenses and the Heritage Fund, lottery dollars working for wildlife. Some projects are made possible by the Sport Fish and Wildlife Restoration Fund.
Ready? All right, let's go find birds. Let's go.
Hello everyone, and welcome to our show, Arizona Wildlife Fuse. I'm your host, Chuck Emmert. Did you know that Arizona is home to 13 different species of rattlesnakes? Well, it's true. In our first story, we'll show you who they are and what makes them different. Rattlesnakes. They inspire fear in many people. Some of us dread accidentally coming across one in the wild. But is there really a reason for all this fear and loathing? Well, ask Randy Babb, a rattlesnake expert who works for the Arizona Game and Fish Department.
Rattlesnakes are incredibly complex organisms, and there's much we don't understand about them. Biologists have been studying rattlesnakes for decades upon decades, and there's a host of mysteries that we've yet to solve. A lot of people have an inordinate fear of snakes, and especially rattlesnakes. Most people believe that a bite from a rattlesnake is always fatal, and if you watch the westerns and believe what you see there, that's certainly true. You get bit by a snake, you're going to die. The reality is a far different story. Actually, very few people ever die from the bite of a rattlesnake.
Still, Arizona is the rattlesnake capital of the United States.
Some recent genetic work has elevated the Arizona black rattlesnake to the species level. That now gives Arizona 13 species of rattlesnakes and 17 rattlesnakes total found in the United States. That's about 1/3 of all rattlesnake species known to science occur right here in Arizona.
Some mountain ranges in Arizona are home to as many as 8 different species of rattlesnakes. As you can imagine, things could get a bit crowded, and the competition for food, shelter, and other resources is a bit stiff with this many species in a relatively small area. But rattlesnakes avoid this competition by dividing up the resources. They just fill different niches. So, one rattlesnake may live on rocky outcrops high in the mountains, while another will inhabit the slopes below the outcrops, and another the foothills at the base of the mountain. In this way, competition between different species is reduced, and a greater variety of similar animals can survive in a relatively small area.
Rattlesnakes are born with everything they need to know to survive. From the moment they're born, they have the capability of delivering a prey-killing bite, and they know what they need to do to find prey and how to subdue it. There's a persistent myth that young rattlesnakes are more dangerous than old rattlesnakes because these babies can't control their venom. That makes no sense. An animal like that would be removed from the gene pool because he doesn't have the information it needs to survive. There's no information passed on from the adult to the young. So the mother isn't teaching the young rattlesnake how to survive. They are born with what they need to know.
Rattlesnakes don't lay eggs. Most species give birth to live young in late July through August. A few give birth as late as September and October. The young of some species stay with their parent a week or so, but biologists believe the rest go right out on their own. Rattlesnakes are equipped with a number of traits that help them thrive. The most obvious to people is, of course, the rattle.
No other snake possesses such a unique noise-making mechanism.
Exactly why or how the rattle evolved is a mystery. However, its purpose is very clear. Stay away.
Rattlesnakes want other animals to know that they're there and that they mean business. That's what the rattle's all about. It's their defense. So when a big diamondback rears up and rattles, it's pretty clear that that's not something that you want to mess with.
Believe it or not, a rattle is made up of the same material as a snake's scales. The snake grows a new segment for the rattle each time it sheds its skin. But don't think you can tell the age of a rattlesnake by counting those segments. Rattle segments can be broken off and, in some cases, A rattlesnake can add on several segments in just one season. Rattlesnakes shed their skin 2 or 3 times each year. Rattlesnakes also have another interesting feature that many of us may not know about. They have special heat sensors built into their bodies.
Rattlesnakes are the most highly evolved of all the pit vipers. This includes also copperheads and cottonmouths. They possess a special heat-sensing pit called a loreal pit that's located below the eye and in back of the nose.
These pits are capable of detecting tiny differences in temperature, as little as just 1 degree Fahrenheit. The nerves from the pits are tied into the snake's optic nerves. Therefore, biologists believe the snakes sense heat from an animal and receive an image in infrared in their brain. The snakes virtually see using these heat-sensing pits.
The heat-sensing pits allow rattlesnakes to locate warm-blooded prey. They are very, very sensitive, and the animal doesn't need to see its prey item to know that it's there. These heat-sensing pits allow the snake to find mice and rats in total darkness.
Rattlesnakes also have several other adaptations they share with other venomous snakes. For example, venom glands. These are modified salivary glands that are located in the area where a cheek might be. In other words, below the eye, in the upper jaw.
Rattlesnakes deliver their venom with hollow hypodermic fangs that fold back up in their mouth like the blade of a pocket knife. These fangs are designed to deliver the venom deep within the tissues of the victim, and they're designed to kill things like mice and rats, not people. Bites from rattlesnakes are fairly common, but deaths from rattlesnakes are actually very rare.
Let's look at one 10-year period. From 1989 to 1998, Arizona's poison centers in Tucson and Phoenix were consulted about 1,912 bites. That divides out to about 191 bites each year. Out of all these bites, only 4 resulted in human deaths.
That's one human fatality about every 2.5 years. That means your odds of dying from a rattlesnake bite are less than 1 in a million. That's not to say that rattlesnakes aren't dangerous animals. We do get deaths by rattlesnake bites. The most recent fatality in Arizona was one that occurred this summer, and it was a gentleman visiting from Europe, Germany, I believe, and he was a snake fancier. He was interested in rattlesnakes, and they had found a Mojave rattlesnake, and he was attempting to catch it and was bitten on the hand. This gentleman was unconscious or unresponsive in 10 minutes, and within 20 minutes he was, for all practical purposes, dead. So you can see just how dangerous a rattlesnake bite can be. Now that is very atypical, but these type of things do happen, and people should never take the presence of a rattlesnake or the bite of a rattlesnake lightly.
However, rattlesnakes can certainly kill prey animals. These include small mammals, birds, other reptiles, amphibians, and even small invertebrates. Prey is killed with venom and then eaten whole. Since snake skulls are very loosely constructed, they can even eat prey more than 4 times the size of their own heads.
That's like a person swallowing a 30-pound watermelon whole.
Because there are so many rattlesnake species in Arizona, identifying one can often be very difficult. Here is a short description of each to help you tell the difference. Western diamondback rattlesnakes are the largest species of rattlesnake found in Arizona, but they're not as big as you might think.
Despite what most people have heard, scientists have never measured a 6-foot rattlesnake. We've gotten them right up to that size, but we've never measured an honest-to-goodness 6-footer here in Arizona.
Western diamondbacks are the rattlesnake species you are most likely to encounter while you're out and about. Therefore, they are also the type of rattlesnakes you're most likely to be bitten by.
Most bites and human deaths from rattlesnakes can be attributed to this species. This snake is very common in many of Arizona's habitats, especially in desert areas below 5,000 feet elevation.
Male diamondbacks are usually much larger than females. This is largely due to females having to expend a lot of energy producing their young. Believe it or not, a female diamondback can give birth to a dozen babies that are 11 inches long. Another rattlesnake you'll commonly find in Arizona is the Mojave rattlesnake. This is one of the most toxic rattlesnake species in the U.S. Mojave rattlesnakes live in desert flats and grasslands. They are often confused with the western diamondback, but they're actually smaller, usually growing to be less than 4 feet long. The Mojaves may also have a greenish tint to them.
Many people confuse Mojave rattlesnakes and diamondbacks, and they actually look rather similar. Both diamondbacks and Mojave rattlesnakes have black and white bands on the tail. The diamondback has black bands that are about the same width as the white bands, whereas the Mojave rattlesnakes, typically the black bands are about half the width of the white bands.
You can find blacktail rattlesnakes in many of Arizona's habitats, from near sea level on rocky desert slopes and canyons, all the way up to more than 9,000 feet high in the mountains. Blacktails can grow to be about 4 feet long. They also come in a variety of colors, green, brown, or a brilliant golden yellow.
Because the blacktail rattlesnake can often be encountered amongst the timber or higher elevations, it's often incorrectly referred to as the timber rattlesnake. The timber rattlesnake is a separate species that does not occur in Arizona. It is found in the eastern United States.
Prairie rattlesnakes are used in a ceremony we've all heard about.
The Hopi rattlesnake is a subspecies of the prairie rattlesnake, and this is the animal that was reportedly used in the Hopi religious ceremonies where they would pray for rain.
Prairie rattlesnakes live in the plateaus and in the scrublands of central Arizona, as well as in the extreme northeast and southeast corners of the state. They can grow to be 2 to 4 feet long, and they are usually tan, brown, or green. There are 4 subspecies of the western rattlesnake living in Arizona. They are the Grand Canyon rattlesnake, Great Basin rattlesnake, the midget-faded rattlesnake, and the Arizona black rattlesnake. The Arizona black rattlesnake is the most commonly seen and well-known of these snakes. Western rattlesnakes can be found in pine forests, flats, woodlands, and chaparral habitats in Arizona. However, you are not likely to find a midget-faded rattlesnake. The only known specimen was found in a canyon before Lake Powell was filled up with water. It might be tough to spot a speckled rattlesnake. That's because they often blend in with their surroundings. Their colors are similar to the areas where they live, and if you're extremely determined, you might find speckled rattlesnakes that are red, orange, peach, or even nearly white.
Speckled rattlesnakes grow to be about 4 feet in length, and they have a diffused banded pattern. They have large heads and black and white bands towards the end of the tail, and they're often confused with a similar tiger rattlesnake.
Speckled rattlesnakes live in the state's western mountain ranges. The tiger rattlesnake is a tropical species of rattlesnake with a range that comes north only as far as south-central Arizona.
People often ask me what my favorite rattlesnake is, and I think I'd have to say the tiger rattlesnake. It's not the prettiest rattlesnake or the most spectacular rattlesnake we have in the Arizona, but it kind of is the icon of the Sonoran Desert. It's the whole story of the Sonoran Desert embodied in a single animal. It's a tropical animal that reaches its northern distributional limits here in Arizona, and that's what Arizona really is. It's the tropics north of the border.
This type of rattlesnake is considered medium-sized since it grows to only a little more than 3 feet long.
Tiger rattlesnakes have a very powerful venom, but because their heads are so small, they don't have a lot of it.
It's pretty unusual to see a tiger rattlesnake and very unusual to be bitten by one. Tiger rattlesnakes live on rocky hillsides, in canyons, and in oak woodlands along the Mexican border. They're most active when the summer rainy season starts. You've probably seen sidewinders in old Western movies, moving in a sideways motion across the desert. In reality, these small rattlesnakes do live in desert flats of central and western Arizona. They may even be the most highly evolved of all rattlesnakes. Their unique sidewinding locomotion allows them to efficiently move over loose soil. Also, because only 2 parts of their body are in contact with the surface at any time, they absorb less heat from the soil.
There are 3 species of sidewinders in the United States, and all 3 of those are found here in Arizona. They're the only species of rattlesnake to possess horns over their eyes. Nobody really knows what the purpose of these horns. Some people think they're like a ball cap bill that shade the eyes from the sun. Other people think they are just there for looks.
Sidewinders are able to eat very large prey for their size, mostly small mammals and lizards. Rock rattlesnakes are actually a protected species here in Arizona. It's illegal to capture, collect, or kill these snakes without special permit from the Arizona Game and Fish Department. Rock rattlesnakes prefer rocky habitats in canyons and on mountain slopes in southeastern Arizona. They're small, only about 2 feet long, and typically very irritable. They often rattle as they retreat into crevices or beneath rocks. Rock rattlesnakes are mostly gray, but you can tell the male and female apart because of the colors of the snakes. Male rock rattlers may have spectacular lichen green backs and orange tails, but typically have very little flecking or spotting in the gray bands. Females have more spotting in the gray crossbands and on their backs. Twin spotted rattlesnakes are named for the pairs of spots running down their backs. They are also a protected species in Arizona. They're small, less than 2 feet long, and are mostly found in the mountains in the southeastern part of our state. In the United States, twin-spotted rattlesnakes are found only in Arizona, and they have another interesting feature as well.
Twin-spotted rattlesnakes have a very small rattle, and when they use it, it sounds more like the call of an insect than the warning from a dangerous snake.
The Arizona ridge-nosed rattlesnake is Arizona's official state reptile. The Arizona ridge-nosed rattlesnake is one of 2 species of ridge-nosed rattlesnakes found in our state. Both types of ridge-nosed rattlers are named for the small raised ridge of scales around the front of their snouts.
Some people believe that the Apaches in southeastern Arizona got the idea for their war paint from the striking facial markings of this snake.
Ridge-nosed rattlesnakes live in the mountains of southeastern Arizona. They are a protected species in Arizona and New Mexico, the only 2 states where they live. They grow to be about 2 feet long, and they're the only rattlesnake species in Arizona to have lengthwise stripes instead of bands on their tails. Massasaugas are considered to be the most primitive form of rattlesnakes in the United States. They are placed in a different genus from all other rattlesnakes. They have a series of large, plate-like scales on their head, instead of the many small scales found on more advanced rattlesnakes. The Massasauga population has gone way down because its habitat has been degraded by human and other uses. The desert Massasauga is found mostly in the San Bernardino Valley, that's in the southeastern part of Arizona. It's also a protected species in Arizona. All of these rattlesnakes live in Arizona, but you're unlikely to ever see them. For that reason and others, you don't need to maintain a fear of rattlesnakes. These complicated, often misunderstood animals are just trying to rattle along, having lived in Arizona longer than humans and hoping to last for thousands of years more.
Coming up next on Arizona Wildlife Views, game and fish biologists are checking out these strange white circles in the desert south of Florence. Stay tuned. I'll tell you why they're here and what they're for.
They are out there, everywhere, all around us, hunting their prey, sleeping in quiet dens, nursing their young. From the creosote-scented air of the lower Sonoran Desert to the pine woodlands of the White Mountains, they live their lives hidden by the night, beyond the ability of our daylight-adjusted eyes to see.
They're very cryptic, very shy, and for the most part, they're active nocturnally at night or in the late evening or early morning. And generally, they're just pretty hard to find.
It's comparatively easy to learn about the behavior and habits of large animals, such as black bears, bighorn sheep, and antelope. They are more active during daylight hours. They leave obvious signs of their presence, such as piles of scat or large paw and hoof prints, and their size makes them more easily visible as they move throughout the land. But what about animals such as bobcats, coyote, or fox? These are much smaller predators with small home ranges. Their patterns of activity most often take them abroad when we humans are least likely to be out and about, during the hours between dusk and dawn. When animals are this secretive, how do researchers learn what we need to know about them?
In Arizona, we have just started this research project to try and develop a method, or perhaps two methods, that can be used by our wildlife managers to monitor long-term population trends of bobcats, coyotes, and foxes, both gray foxes and kit foxes.
In the upper Sonoran Desert, outside of Florence, Arizona, game and fish biologists were out looking for clues into the lives of these mysterious small predators. Their tool? The scent station. To the unsuspecting hiker or hunter, these mysterious white circles might look like landing sites for tiny alien spacecraft. But their real purpose is much more down to earth. The scent stations may be able to tell us more about the populations of small predators such as bobcats, coyotes, and foxes.
We rake a small area about 3 feet in diameter to remove all rocks and debris, and that gives us a flat, smooth bed that we can add the calcium carbonate to. We use the calcium carbonate, the white powder, for two reasons. One is that it shows up the tracks real well, and then the second reason is it's biodegradable.
The scent posts use an array of attractions to lure in small predators.
These here are scent tablets made from organic fatty acids. They attract certain predators. The stink lasts probably up to 2 weeks, but we only use it for one night. These stations are out for one night only. This is actually the bait. You know, we attract the animals to our tracking substrate, and if it's in the middle of the tracking bed, animals will leave tracks leading to this, and we can tell what animal came by the scent post station.
The cotton ball is primarily a visual stimulus for bobcats. So the bobcats are attracted both by the smell, and then the cotton ball is an added incentive. They'll see it swinging in the breeze, and once they see that, that tends to pull them in more than just the smell of the scent tablet. So it's just an added incentive to draw them in.
The scent post stations attract small predators, which walk through the lime layer, leaving paw tracks behind. Researchers can tell from the tracks which type of animal has visited the station.
We separate scent stations by at least 3/10 of a mile, sometimes a little bit further, to remove the probability of one animal visiting multiple stations on a transect line.
After spending a day setting up 10 scent post stations along a 3-mile transect line, research biologists return the next day to check each station for animal tracks in the white lime dust.
Like another dry run.
Eager expectation turns to weary patience as station after station is devoid of tracks.
We come in after we've run each scent station and rake it out, smooth it out, clear it up, and then the rain washes it away. A lot of times we'll go 9 or 10 stations on a line and not find anything until maybe the 9th or 10th station. So visitations per station are pretty low.
In the past, Arizona and other states as well relied on hunter-harvest data to tell wildlife managers about the relative health of populations of these elusive small predators. The scent post study may give the Arizona Game and Fish Department a more quantitative method for measuring populations and their trends in different habitats. If this study shows that scent post stations work, eventually department wildlife managers statewide will use them to assess local populations of bobcat, fox, and coyote. Over time, such data could yield important information about the mysterious small predators who share our Arizona home.
Right now, this project is involved with 5 different habitats, ranging from the Grand Canyon down to the Mexican border. So we'll be able to talk not only about long-term trends, but about population changes in specific habitats as well.
It appears the fox came in here, rolled on the scent tablet. You can see the hair marks in the calcium carbonate layer here, and then walked off.
Finally, patience pays off as researchers find evidence that foxes have visited several of the stations.
These fox tracks tend to be an inch or an inch and a quarter long, a little bit longer than they are wide. Here you go.
Fox.
Another fox right here.
The 3-year research project has just begun, but it looks like the scent post method may turn out to be a useful tool for assessing the health of small predator populations.
Well, that just goes to show, just because you can't see wildlife doesn't mean it's not there. If you'd like to find out more, you can log on to our website at azgfd.gov. That's our show for this week. On behalf of our producers, Gary Schaefer and Carol Lind, I'm Chuck Emmert. Thanks for watching.